Okay, are we ready? Everybody ready to go? Awesome. All right, great. Thanks everybody for joining us today. My name is Ryan Kelly. I'm the president-elect of the Women Lawyers Association of Michigan, and we are very excited today to present Clearing the Virtual Clutter with MARLA MCCOWAN. I know this definitely piqued my interest. It feels like I've gone from being a road warrior like so many of you to never leaving my desk. A little bit about MARLA. MARLA is the Director of Training, Outreach, and Support with the Michigan Indigent Defense Commission. MARLA works with trial court funding units to facilitate implementation of continuing legal education requirements for over 2,000 attorneys that are accepting assigned criminal cases in Michigan. But my caseload was heavy, right? MARLA also supervises a team of statewide regional managers who provide ongoing assistance to court systems to comply with the MIDC standards for indigent defense. Prior to joining the MIDC, MARLA served as a public defender at the appellate level for over 16 years at the Michigan State Appellate Defender's Office. She is a fellow of the Michigan State Bar Foundation, a member of the Criminal Defense Attorneys of Michigan, a member of the National Legal Aid and Defender Association, National Association for Public Defense, and of course, one of our much celebrated members of the Women Lawyers Association of Michigan. MARLA was part of the Michigan Lawyer Weekly's 2018 class of Women in the Law and was voted Woman of the Year by her peers. She also has received the State Bar of Michigan's Champion of Justice Award in 2019. We are so glad that MARLA is here to share some of her tips, and I will let her take it away. Thanks.
Thank you so much for having me. I really, really appreciate this. I hope everybody can hear me okay. This is a lunch and learn session. I hope that that will be helpful to everybody and also convenient in the middle of your work day. As everybody is kind of getting settled in and having your sandwich or whatever it is, if you want to take a minute here to acquaint yourself with some of the Zoom features. I feel like we're all pretty familiar with Zoom at this point, but if you want to take a minute, just as we were getting kind of warming up here just a few minutes ago, people were typing in the chat box any good books that they've read lately or books that they've heard about that they want to read. If you want to test out the chat box feature, Nicole Smithson is going to be monitoring that. And if there are any questions during the course of the session, she will either stop me or flag me if I don't catch those. I'm going to try to monitor this as well too. My screen is set up in a way right now where I'm in presentation mode with my PowerPoint. So I can't see all of you right now. I've minimized the gallery over to the side, so I can only just see really just myself at this point and Nicole. If you want to take a minute just to play around with that as well too, we're going to do just a little bit of a soft intro here. So if you can see my whole face over to the right side, you're probably okay. There are definitely some PowerPoint slides during this presentation that are animated. So you're going to want to see as much of the screen as you can, just so that you see all the functionality of some of the things. I animated everything as opposed to being live out on the internet, which doesn't always work perfectly. And sometimes it can be a little bit glitchy. So I captured a lot of screenshots. So if anybody's ever seen my lunchtime tech tips before, that this is kind of how I tend to do things. There's a lot of screenshots here and some animation. So hopefully you'll be able to see everything. So go ahead and organize your screen however is comfortable for you. And just take a minute here to get acclimated and make sure that you can see everything. My soft launch here is I know a lot of us are looking at screens all the time. I have a great tech tip here from some of my colleagues. I think Susan's on the line too. Susan introduced us to this, and I know a couple of other people did too. These are my blue light glasses. I have them with me all the time. It's hard for me to read my notes and look at the screen, so sometimes I just sort of have them propped up here on my head. But if you haven't gotten a pair of blue light glasses yet, I highly recommend, because it has really cut down on eye strain for me looking at a screen all day. And especially for those of us who, read our books like on our Kindles or things like that at night, or you're looking at a screen, you're reading your news on your iPad or your phone, you're constantly looking at a device. I highly recommend getting some blue light glasses. These are incredibly cheap. I got 3 of them for less than 20 bucks. So if that's within your budget and your means to do this, I highly recommend. And if you're an Amazon junkie, like I know a lot of us have become, these are going to be at your doorstep tomorrow if you order them today. So I recommend these if you are spending a lot of time, like so many of us, looking at the screen lately. The goals for the session today, this is a lunch and learn, and it's designed to be hopefully helpful, but this isn't going to be like really, really intense or anything. These are, tips and tricks, technology and internet-based resources to stay organized and productive and work as efficiently as possible. Efficiency is really key, in my opinion. We have to make the best use of our day. All of us struggle with things like work-life balance, and I know that it has been even more challenging here, especially with so many of us spending so much of our workday at home, shutting things off. There's always sort of this need to sort of want to stay on or be connected or just making that break at the end of the day. So we want to try to make our work days efficient as possible and then be able to transition to the rest of our life after. So, I'm all about efficiency, and probably people who work with me would describe me as being organized. That's a way that I describe myself. I pride myself on being pretty well organized. It's not always a perfect system, but I have my own tips and tricks that I use, and those are largely what I plan to share here with everybody today. So why do we even have to use technology? I mean, what's this even about? Why are we talking about technology? Why is it even important? Whether we like it or not, technology, is here to stay, and this is how we do our work lately. But I wanted to take just a minute here to remind everybody, or just introduce you to the fact, if you weren't aware of it, that the state of Michigan actually, in the Michigan Rules of Professional Conduct now, has adopted, there's an amendment or a comment here to a basic rule of competence, MRPC 1.1, which includes a component around knowledge of technology. This is something that is considered a core competency, something that we just have to be aware of. This was adopted by the state of Michigan in September of 2019. It went into effect in January 1st of 2020. So that feels like so long ago, but that's just over a year now that this has been in effect. And this is something that, we need to know. And, obviously the way 2020 unfolded, this made it all too real as well. So we need to know how technology works. We need to know how to use it. We need to know how to use it because this is how cases work now, right? I mean, this is how we're doing almost all of our work. Everything is being done either online or being delivered to us in some sort of package that requires us to have a basic understanding of technology and how it works so that we can do the best job for our clients. I personally don't consider myself to be super techie. I can't, take apart a computer and put it all back together, and I barely even know all the right words all the time. But I really like technology, and I embrace it, and I like learning about it. I like using online resources because a lot of times it makes my workday easier. It makes the job that I'm doing better. And so, I like learning about it, and I like sharing it with people. My goal today really is just to, help you get comfortable if you are not super comfortable with technology, help you know how you can manage your workday a little bit better, and hopefully make you also a little bit more curious about what's out there, if there are resources that I share with you today that you haven't heard of before. So, I feel like every year my goals include things like learning a new skill and reading more. That's why I was asking what people are reading. I'm always wanting to read more and learn something new. And so I wanted to mention first here, the State Bar of Michigan's website. I have actually a couple of tips during the course of the session here today where we're talking about the State Bar of Michigan's website. The first thing I want to mention here is their lending library. If you can see at the bottom of the screen, there's the web address, the URL address, if you wanted to copy and paste that into your browser or check it out. Of course, I think we're all familiar with mishbar.org. If you go over to the practice management section, you can see the lending library there. This is a great resource. And I think either not enough people know about it, or they forget about it, or they checked it out maybe 5, 6, 8 years ago, and then kind of never went back. I know when I first started using the online lending library, there were probably about 100 or 200 books at that time. When I checked recently in the last week or so, there are over 700 titles now that they have. So, I mean, they have really expanded their library, their offerings quite a bit. And there is a lot of really useful information on the lending library. I pulled just a few titles. I have my own library app that I have my own local library that I go to. I use the local library app and I mostly use that for my reading. But I do find that the State Bar of Michigan site is really great for things like sort of core office work that I'm doing if I need to learn like a program or something like that. Microsoft Teams is one thing in particular. They've got a Teams for Dummies in an ebook version that I wanted to mention to people. I feel like I've been using Microsoft for most of my career, probably like a lot of people, right? We've been using Microsoft like, I don't know, forever. I can't even remember when I used to use WordPerfect, but Word has been around forever. But like, did anybody else hear of Teams for the first time, like in the last year? I mean, Teams has actually been around since 2017. I was looking into this. It was introduced as a rival to Slack, which we use Slack in our office. But Teams obviously gained a ton of popularity, and I work for the state of Michigan. We use Teams for everything. All of the meetings that are done internally are done by Teams. And so, I've been trying to brush up on my skills a little bit. So I would recommend, if you're interested in learning more, the State Bar has available multiple copies or licenses or whatever they have, but it's always readily available as Microsoft Teams for Dummies. That's in an ebook version. The other thing that they have too are audiobooks. Over 70 titles are in audiobook format, which I love. I mentioned a big focus of this session today. I wanted to talk about how to be more efficient. I almost always have an audiobook downloaded to my phone. I go for walks almost every day that I can. I imagine myself looking this put together as I'm bundled up and my ponytail looking great. But, I'm always, listening to a book. I try to always listen to a book. I rarely listen to music. It's almost always books. And if you haven't had a chance yet to listen to either of the two books that I have here, both of these, Dare to Lead and Just Mercy, are read by their authors, and they're just incredible. I highly recommend it, either of those titles, as well as, check out any of the other offerings available on the State Bar's lending library. The way that you do this is you use whatever app you usually use. The State Bar recommends Libby. That's what I also use for my lending library, my normal lending library right here in Walled Lake. I use Libby for just about everything. I like it. You can also use the Overdrive app. Libby gives you a little bit more functionality moving between chapters and bookmarking things. What you're going to do if you already have an account, say for example, or you wanted to add the State Bar of Michigan's lending library to your library card, you would add a library. And just take note here, they're going to ask you for your card number. Your card number is your State Bar of Michigan username. And then your password is your P number. If you didn't write that down, that's fine. All the instructions are available on the lending, on the website at mishbar.org, the practice management section under lending, the lending library. The instructions are there, but just remember, it's not going to be like you're not going to get a card from this, about this library. You're just going to use your username and password. If you don't remember your username, you can log in with your credentials, like when you go to pay your bar dues, how you would log in, and you can go to the password management and it's got the information there. So that's my first tip, checking out the State Bar's lending library. That takes care of a few things actually on my goals, which is, learning a new skill and reading more and getting some exercise too. So it's kind of one-stop shopping using the State Bar's lending library. This little to-do list here, this picture that I found, I know it's decidedly low tech. I do want to talk about to-do lists. That's definitely one of the things that I talked about in the write-up for this session here. To-do lists are really important. I'm a big fan of them. I need them to get done. I've decided to embrace them. I used to hate to-do lists. I just had these pieces of paper everywhere and it always felt so overwhelming. And if I lost it or something, I just felt like, the world was falling apart. I wasn't sure how I was going to do it, but I wrote up a little tech tips article for women lawyers this past December that goes into a little bit more detail. And it also has some links to some other resources for to-do lists that I would recommend checking out. I cited a link to an article that reviews, 10 or 20 of the best apps for productivity, task managers, whatever they are. It walks you through what different features are included with various applications. And I recommend checking that out because, it's not one-stop shopping for everybody. You have to be able to use something that is meeting the need that you have, whatever that is. And it also has to work the way that you work too. So just a couple of quick things about to-do lists generally. If you can get something done in 2 minutes or less, I definitely subscribe to this getting things done philosophy. Just get it done right then. If you don't know about the getting things done philosophy, there's lots and lots of books about that. Also cited in the article from December in the Women Lawyers online news articles there. If you could get it done in 2 minutes or less, just do it right then. Don't even bother writing that down or trying to remember later, just do it right then. For everything else though, you really have to figure out a good system. I mean, it's just really critical. And especially I talked in the article about feeling more forgetful than ever lately in this pandemic when days sort of run together and you're sort of, not sure, not sure where to start. Sometimes, you really need a good organizer. And I really love Google Tasks. And I wrote about this in the article too. So I don't want to spend a lot of time rehashing, the whys and all of that or the other resources that are listed in there. I'm just going to focus on the Google Tasks here and show you how I use it and how I set it up. The reason why I like Google Tasks is because a couple of things. First of all, it's free. That's a huge factor for me. It has to be free. It also has to be really easy to use, which this is. Google Tasks is really easy to use. And it also has to sync across any device that I have open, right? So if I have it on my laptop, and I left my, back in the days where I used to, sometimes leave my laptop at the office, I want to be able to have it also on my phone or have it on my iPad or whatever. It has to sync across all these devices through an app and be readily available, and I can update it, whenever I want to. So those are some critical components for me. You might have other factors that are interesting to you. Maybe you don't care if it's free. Maybe you're willing to pay for something if it looks a certain way or interacts with other types of programs that you use. Whatever it is that you're looking for, I do recommend at least checking out some sort of new task manager if you have felt overwhelmed and you don't currently have one that you're employing on a regular basis. I have open here my Gmail. This is just, I grabbed a couple of screenshots last night, like I mentioned. Hopefully you have your screen organized in a way that you can see. I'm going to be making reference. I've got everything minimized on my screen too. So Nicole, if there are any questions, if you could let me know, because I have a lot of things sort of obscured based on my PowerPoint here, the way I have it displayed.
So far, you received no questions, but you did get a shout out from Ryan for reminding people about their responsibility to be technologically competent.
Okay, great. Good. Okay, so I have my screen minimized in a way. Hopefully people have organized the gallery view so that you could see. I'm referring now over to the far right-hand side, along the right side of the screenshot that I grabbed for this particular slide. So you could see what the to-do list looks like on my screen. So if you've never used to do the Google Tasks before, this already exists. If you have Gmail, this already exists. And if you're signed in using your Gmail credentials, you already have access to it. You're gonna look for this little symbol over to the right-hand side. And when you click on that, it will open up to a blank task list. You can begin by creating a new list. Now I've shifted over to the left here just to blow this up a little bit better so you could see. So now I'm just zoomed in here on the right-hand side of what would be displayed on my desktop version of my Gmail, my inbox here. You can create a new list anytime. These are some various lists that I have at any given time. I've got some follow-up and some stuff for my boss and some stuff for upcoming commission meeting, things I'm always trying to remember for upcoming meetings that need to happen, and some other pieces that I'm working on here. You could create a new list at any time. It's as easy as just creating it, entering a title, some details. One really cool thing is that you can, well, there are lots of cool things, but one cool thing that I really like is that you can add a date and time. And when you do that, you can also schedule it to repeat. So for example, every other Wednesday, I have to sign timesheets by noon. I don't know why. I forget. I don't know why I forget. Sometimes I forget that it's Wednesday. Sometimes I lose track of it's whatever Wednesday. Fortunately, we do have somebody in the office who reminds us. But what happens for me here is because I have this set as a reminder, it's the first thing I see every other Wednesday morning now. So I was able to set that. And once I tick it off, that's fine. And it'll just show up again automatically 2 weeks later. That's actually a really nice feature. So for example, in this instance, I'm pulling up the commission meeting. You can see here just a little illustration here of what maybe the title might look like, a subtask. You don't have to have subtasks, but if you happen to have subtasks, and then details around the information too. Sometimes that's important. What I like about this too, you can move your tasks up and down. You can sort of reprioritize. You literally just have to grab it and drag it either higher or lower on the list. Very, very easy to do. There's no starting and stopping over. You don't have to recreate anything. Just move it around anytime you want. And also very conveniently, are the completed tasks. I mentioned that I actually hardly ever look at the completed tasks, but I've had people ask me about this, like where do you save what you've checked off? I think, sometimes I think it's kind of a funny question because, when I used to make like actual to-do lists like by hand and check things off or scribble them up, I would throw them away. I never kept those. But I guess some people like to see, maybe it's like a nice feeling of accomplishment. You could see what you have checked off. So there is that nice feature too. And as I mentioned, what's really nice is that this does sync across devices. So what I have here is a view from my iPad. I just grabbed a screenshot of this last night. All you have to do if you download the Google Tasks, the app to whatever device you use, and you're signed in again with your Gmail credentials, you will see all of your tasks there. I just pull down and it'll spin and refresh. And in 2 seconds, I've got the most recent version of the list I was working on at any other device where I was working. So that's a really nice feature. So to-do lists, like I said, are really important, whatever they look like. Please just find one that works for you. I love this one from Google because, like I said, it's free. It's super easy to use. It's in my face and it syncs across all my devices. But also it sort of works the way I do too, which I think a lot of people sort of work like this. They're either like in their calendar or their inbox or something like that. And along the side, they're always sort of making lists. I feel like it sort of works exactly the way I do. One other possibility that I wanted to mention, which is also free and associated with some Gmail credentials, is Momentum. I used to use Momentum all the time, and I really liked it. I use it all the time until the state of Michigan. We updated some programs, and probably about 1.5 years ago, I lost the ability to download this browser extension on my Chrome, on my Chrome tab here. So I use Google Chrome for internet browsing. And this is something that you would just add as an extension to your tab. So the state of Michigan doesn't let me do that anymore. So I had to find something else, which I was really, really glad that I stumbled upon Google Tasks. But this is an option. And I wanted to mention it because for a couple of reasons. First, I mean, it's just really lovely. I do still use this at home for some personal stuff. It sort of greets you every day with a very nice serene picture from somewhere. It'll tell you where it's from in the bottom lower hand corner. It'll give you some sort of inspirational quote for the day. And also like Google Tasks or many other task managers, it does keep track of things that you've checked off. So if you're interested in that, it's pretty simple though. It doesn't give you the ability to create multiple lists. And like I said, not every business is going to let you download this sort of extension to a web browser. But if you do have the ability to use it or use it at home, or you just want something simple at home, this is a nice one to use. So I'm going to move on now to email, and I'm just checking my time because I think that we are doing actually pretty good on time. So that's great. I'll pause here just for a second if there are any questions. Moving into email here. I'm not going to ask for a show of hands who falls into which category here. I can tell you, I definitely fall into the category on the left. This is a meme I didn't create. This is a meme that I found. And I just want to say, when I saw this, I basically had a heart attack. I have no idea how people live like this, but I know a lot of people do. So I just wanted to take a few minutes here to talk about how we can work on email and clearing up our inbox. This is another specific piece that I think we talked about in the write-up for today's session. I'm going to start with Gmail. I wanted to start with Gmail because I know not everybody uses Gmail like for their main work accounts, but I've been finding more and more that a lot of people use Gmail the way I do, which is sort of as an all-purpose work and work-related sort of backup. So I don't know if anybody else finds themselves in that category, but I do. I fall into that category. I have a Michigan.gov email address. That's my primary email, but I also have a Gmail account that I use for kind of a lot of other things, including things like somebody shares something in a Google Drive with me, or I want to, use some whatever features I want, including things like using Google Tasks or having the momentum app, whatever. There are a lot of reasons to have a Gmail account. And it is actually really handy if you don't have one. But I tend to find when I go to my Gmail that there's a lot of stuff in it. And it's not one that I am managing, all the time. Like I said, I use it more or less for a backup. But it's important, I think even more important, if you are using it as your backup or not as your primary, that you are flagging certain messages that might be coming in there so that you don't lose track of those. You don't lose track of it because, they're going to default certain things to primary or social or promotions. Something might get shoved off to the promotion or social tab, so it's not even going to be displayed in your primary. So you're going to want to create some sort of way of routing those or flagging those for your attention. The important thing to remember here is in Gmail, folders are called labels. I have that up at the top here. If you're not familiar with that, just make a note there, because if you want to Google, how do I create folders in Gmail, it's good. It's going to be referring to labels. It's not the traditional folder word that you see in some other email-based applications. So in this instance here, one example that I wanted to share, I don't have a lot of folders created here, but I do have one that I call From Lauren. Lauren's my boss, and Lauren often sends me things to Gmail, which are, important things that I need. Like, for example, in this particular instance, I think it was a link to share the upcoming for the commission meeting materials or something like that. I don't want to lose track of that. So anytime something comes in from Lauren, it's going to be over in this particular label, this category, which at any time I could go there and find all the messages that are from Lauren. I also set up a rule that anytime anything comes in from her, it's automatically going to be labeled and dropped into that box. So I'll show you how to set that up if you're not familiar with it. Over to the left, there are a couple of different icons. I highlighted in a rectangular box what a label looks like. If you click along that side there, they're going to give you the options around your inbox and certain other things. Click on more. And if you scroll down to the bottom, it's going to talk about labels or creating a new label. That's where you're going to create your labels if you've never done one yet. You're going to enter your new label name. You can even nest it. You can have subfolders, things like that. That's very, helpful if you've got maybe sort of a more complicated system that you want to of things that you want to keep track of. But if it's just simple enough to just create a label, you're welcome to do that. Here in this instance, I'm going to create one for women lawyers for messages that I get from Women Lawyers Association. I do get a lot of women lawyers messages from Women Lawyers Association. I love it. It's wonderful. Sometimes though, it falls into the category of promotions, and I don't know why. So what I wanted to do here is I created a label called WLAM. And even though it defaults to promotions, I'm going to have it, when I'm opening it here, I'm going to label this as the WLAM label here. And this is a feature that you'll find if you open the message itself, the labels are going to be displayed across the tops, moving from left to right. You click on the label there, move it to the label that you created for it. What's also nice is you can go back and select the message. Click on the three dots that I just highlighted. It's probably hard to see here. It's another red circle that I just highlighted here. And it'll bring up the option to move it to that label or that designation. So in this instance, anytime the subject says WLAM, I want to move it to that designated location. I'm going to apply that label. And also, you see I checked at the bottom there, also apply to matching messages. So what it's going to go do now is go back through, comb through any messages that I have in my inbox and label those as WLAM. Once you hit the create filter, it will be there. What's nice here is it doesn't actually move it. I actually like this piece of it. It doesn't move it away from your inbox. It just adds that label to it. So you could see, right, it's still in your inbox nicely. It's still in your inbox labeled, but at any time you could go over to that labeled folder and open up all of the other messages that are associated with it. So that's sort of a nice feature. If you're not familiar with creating labels, and especially if you use Gmail as your sort of all-purpose backup, which I know a lot of us do, I recommend if you know that you've got a couple of known senders, things that are kind of slipping through the cracks, I recommend adding labels to those messages and setting up rules and filters, applying and moving them over. I use the Outlook app for my regular day-to-day work, and I think that folders are pretty self-explanatory. I don't want to spend a lot of time here talking through this. I didn't create a lot of slides, but one thing that I've become more interested in using for something staying in my face here are these little pins. This is available in the 365 app. What I like about this is I can pin messages that I don't want to lose track of. It's not necessarily anything I have to do right that second, but I don't want to lose track of where those are. So I pin those and those stay apparent to me right at the top of my inbox here. So it only works in the app. I don't think that it works in the regular Outlook desktop application. I'm not sure that I've ever seen the pins there. Maybe they're buried, but it's super easy to use if you're in the app itself. You have the option of like deleting or marking as unread or flagging in some other way or putting a pin in it. Put a pin in it, it's going to move it right to the top so you don't lose track. And that's my little Outlook tip there. Like I said, I think folders are pretty intuitive in Outlook generally, so I don't know if there are any questions about that or any other questions about email. I'm a big believer in trying to reduce email. I feel like I get a lot of email, but I do want to make a pitch here for an efficient use of email. I highly recommend that you get some sort of news roundup delivered to you in an email every day. I know I personally feel a little overwhelmed all the time looking at various news sites. I do look at them, but but one thing that I like to do to start my day is have something in my inbox that delivers the most important subjects. And this is I picked CNN and the Skim. These are two that I get every day. I really enjoy these. I like the format and the content. I'm not making a pitch for either of these in particular, but I will say, if you have some news source that you really like and they do offer a roundup, an email roundup every morning, I highly recommend you at least have that delivered to you every day. We were talking at the beginning before we got started, just kind of getting up to speed. And there's so many different resources that are available online too, whether it's New York Times or you're just looking to broaden your horizon. I think Tim was talking about New York Times, that he's started a new subscription there. A lot of places offer roundups, so check those out and sign up for one. At the risk of adding to your inbox, I think that this is definitely time well spent. I'm going to move on here to a couple of websites to bookmark, which will hopefully make your day more efficient and productive and help you do your work more accurately. I'm using the word bookmark. Hopefully everybody knows this. I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about bookmarks themselves or how to create them. Generally speaking, I think this is sort of the general rule here is if you're looking at your computer screen, you're going to have the option to create bookmarks or save sites to return to later, like how a bookmark would work. Usually up in the right-hand side of your screen. In this instance, again, I was just in my, using a Chrome browser. It's three little dots over to the side. I have the option to bookmark something there. So I can, if I'm on a particular site that I like, it'll say bookmark this site. You hit that option and it's there. You can name it something that whatever you want to. You want to name it work or you want to name it whatever. There's usually no shortage of options for how you naming conventions or things like that. So it's worth doing. So moving on to a couple of sites that are worth bookmarking. First of all, timeanddate.com. This is an oldie, but a goodie. I know that I've talked about this before. It is really, really critical, especially again, like I said, I feel like I'm losing track of days. I feel like it's already going to be the end of January. I don't know. It's like in another week or so, we're going to be saying things like February. I mean, all of us lose track of days, and times it's really important to make sure that we have a good time and date calculator, especially if we are working off of a deadline. What I like about this is it's really simple to use. I'm not going to say, foolproof. You still have to enter in the correct information on the front end here. But it's really nice because you can enter information and say, here's a particular date. What date is it? I got this thing today. I've got to answer in 21 days. What day is that in 21 days? You put that on your calendar. Or you could say, this was the date that something was ordered. I know I've got 21 days to answer, 42 days to answer, 90 days, whatever it is to answer. So it'll give you a date-to-date calculator as well. And it'll give you, the day of the week, it'll say Monday, January, whatever, 25th or whatever Monday is. So that's actually really nice. One thing that I stumbled upon recently that I want to make sure people are aware of, especially if you are working with deadlines here. I know in the Supreme Court, Court of Appeals, there was some tolling involved in the deadlines related to the health pandemic and the closure of certain courts. Please make sure that you bookmark the Court of Appeals website here, this time calculator here. There's information on the website itself about tolling with links to the various administrative orders, which is really important. They do have a time calculator. And a very nice thing that they have added here is they have the traditional time calculator here where you can, put your start date and however many days you have, and it'll tell you the other thing. But it also has this feature around apply tolling with links again to the administrative order. So you can either use their regular time calculator, which they've had for a very long time, or you can use one that involves one of these start dates and this target date here. That's the word that they're using here. So I don't know if this is still relevant to anybody. I don't know if anybody still has any deadlines that are impacted by this or potentially impacted by this, but I want to make sure that people are aware of this because this will help you calculate a date around those closures related to the administrative orders. So please make sure that you bookmark this in the event that you do have any such questions about timing of briefs being due. I mentioned at the beginning, I wanted to talk through a couple of things on the State Bar's website. Here's another one that I wanted to mention. I'm trying to, like all of us, look at the silver linings and what we've learned from working remotely. And one thing is true is that we definitely have learned that there are plenty of things that we can do remotely that we don't have to get in our car anymore and necessarily drive to. And one of those, if you go again to the State Bar's website, so again it's mishbar.org, their Practice Management Resource Center, I'm talking about this particular page again. They have resources dedicated to working remotely. So please make sure that you bookmark that. If you're in need of something like electronic signatures, they've got some information around electronic signatures and programs that you could use, but also really cool is remote notaries. And they've got the related executive orders around the authorization for using remote notaries. I had occasion to refinance my mortgage over the summer, and I had the benefit of using a remote notary. It was really cool, super easy, easy to use. So I don't regularly make use of notaries, but for anyone who does, if you're not familiar with this or any of these programs, the approved vendors are listed on the State Bar's website. So again, that's mishbar.org under the practice management section for working remotely. Check that out if you haven't done so yet. The last piece here that I wanted to mention about on the State Bar's website, and this is one that, whenever I talk about the State Bar's website, I feel like, a lot of times people are saying like, I don't think people know about that, or people don't use that enough, or I'm not sure that I ever realized that, things like that. So I feel like some people probably know about this resource, but don't know how to make the best use of it, or don't know, where to find the most recent version. So I wanted to walk you through a really, really critical tool that will help make your life easier, especially if you spend a lot of time writing briefs and researching, and you're getting ready for court, or you've written up an argument before and you're thinking about, raising that argument again, and you want to know if there's any recent legal updates relating to the authority that you cited in that brief. I highly recommend, it's really basically almost critical to use Casemaker's feature here. It's called Site Check. So I'm going to walk you through how to do this here. The easiest way to do this is to be logged in using your State Bar of Michigan credentials here. So I think your username is probably your P number, the normal way is you use your P number, whatever you use when you update your bar dues. I think it's your P number, and then you've got a PIN. Log into the state bar's website. And once you're logged in, you're going to have the option to go to CaseMaker. I know a lot of people know that we as state bar members, we have access for free to CaseMaker, which is a legal research database. It's got a ton of authorities there that's all available to us at no additional cost. It's included as part of our bar dues or part of our the resources that are available to us as members. I highly recommend checking out CaseMaker. We could do a whole separate course on how to use CaseMaker and how to make it really work for you, especially if you fall into the category of people thinking it's not as good as, say, Westlaw or something like that. I'm here to tell you it is actually really good. I have been able to replicate searches in CaseMaker, but the feature that I want to focus here, like I said, is on site check. When you log into CaseMaker, when you land here, you're going to be prompted, and this is the important part that I wanted to mention. If you haven't visited CaseMaker lately, you're going to get this prompt here that says now available, CaseMaker 4. Don't do the thing that I did, the first thing, which is remind me later and try to navigate the rest of it. You actually do have to use CaseMaker 4 in order to use this next feature here. So go to CaseMaker 4 and it'll bring up this nice screen for you here. What you're looking for is site check. And again, the purpose of doing this is so that you can upload your research and have it run through electronically, run through all of the sites that are cited in your brief or your pleadings, and it will tell you if the authority that you relied on is still good law. Click on site check. It's going to prompt you. It'll give you some instructions here too. It's also going to tell you over to the side that Blue Book format's required. And then you have to remember what that is and try to worry that you didn't put in a book. I'm here. That's fine. Don't worry too much about that piece here. Take your brief and you make sure that you have it saved to the computer that you're using. You're going to hit browse and be able to select whatever brief that you're looking at. I pulled up a brief here. I pulled it up in a Word version. It also allows you to pull it up in a PDF. That's fine too. It works just as well. It's actually really nice. And then hit submit. And it's going to run through your brief. And in this instance, I'm not showing you all the pieces here because it takes a few minutes. But in this instance here, it was about a 50-page brief that I had filed in the Court of Appeals on a couple of issues and a couple of legal issues. And I pulled it because I happen to know that one of the arguments that I made has been, there's been some activity recently. This brief was a little bit older. I think it's probably at least 10, maybe more than 10 years old. So I hit the submit button and it ran. It's going to tell you it takes 30 to 90 seconds, and it really does. It does all the work and it goes through page by page by page, scanning it. And then it's going to tell you that your report is ready. And it brings up a nice report that you can either download or print or email to yourself if you want to look at it later. And in this instance, it generated a 10-page report for me. I didn't want to, there were a lot of red thumbs down in this brief, as I suspected. I didn't want that to be too daunting. So I tried to find a page that had some green arrows on it here, some thumbs up. But it gives you this nice little report here, 10 pages. So you can print that out if you want to, or do whatever you want, and you can go through and do your research and make your notes. But I highly recommend it. I mean, for 90 seconds or 2 minutes or 3 minutes, I mean, there's really no reason to not do this, especially if you match it up with your index of authorities and they grabbed everything. This is an excellent starting point, and it does a ton of the work for you. You can, I think, safely skip everything that's a green arrow and then just focus on worrying about those red arrows and making sure that you're updating your research accordingly, whether you're preparing for your argument or your next hearing, whatever it is. I highly recommend doing this. A couple of other things here that I wanted to move on to. I don't know if there are any questions on that. Nicole, do you have any questions? Okay, great. So updating your resume is the next piece I want to talk about here. It's this is a huge time saver. I know even if you're not applying for a job, I've been finding more and more lately, like if I want to do some committee work or I'm going to be presenting somewhere, they're asking a lot of times for my resume, which is fine. I just don't always have the most recent version of my resume available to me. And if you fall into that category where you're thinking you might have left it on a flash drive in your office that you haven't been to since last April, this is a really handy tool if you use LinkedIn. A lot of people use LinkedIn. I know a lot of people use it professionally to update various, professional accomplishments, and it's wonderful. LinkedIn has a built-in resume builder for you that is super easy to use. And I just wanted to walk you through that. So if you're in a pinch, you need to create a resume really fast, this is the way that you do it. You're going to log into your LinkedIn account and go over to the top right corner there where it says me. There's going to be a little drop down arrow there, and it's going to give you the option to look at your profile. You just have to be logged in on your LinkedIn page that you use regularly, or at least occasionally, and view your profile. It's going to give you the option here under more to build a resume. It's a little bit faded here, but under more, one of the options was build a resume. It gives you the option to either upload something that you can kind of, work through and update, or just create it from the profile that you have already on LinkedIn itself. So that's what I'm doing here. I've not uploaded anything. I'm just creating it based on the information that I've told LinkedIn over time about me, my job, whatever my, contact information is. It will automatically build the information for you. And what's really nice is you can add certain features, or you can use that little pencil there and edit certain pieces too. And as you go through, clean up your experience, your education, your awards, various things that you've gotten. Under more, over to the right-hand side, when you've got it to the right place that you want to get to, you can download this as a PDF. And it generates a nice resume for you in PDF format with a link to your LinkedIn account, which I think is really nice if people are interested in going and learning more about you. And it's got all of the relevant information there. And this ended up generating 2 or 3 pages for me. I'm not going to scroll through all of it because I don't have it all completed here. But it is a really nice way in a pinch if you're looking for a resume and you need one really fast and you have a LinkedIn, I recommend going there. So this last bit here, kind of winding down here. I know it's getting towards the end of our hour here. I was trying to time this out and not take any more than an hour. I just wanted to make a pitch here for making time to take care of yourself. This session is called Clear the Virtual Clutter. I also wanted to spend a couple of minutes here talking about clearing some mental clutter that we find happening, daily too, as we try to unwind at the end of our workday. I have become a huge believer in meditation and spending some quiet time reflecting every day. Not every day is easy. I think probably, like everybody here, we have really good days and sometimes you have some bad days. It's really nice to take a few minutes, whether you do it first thing in the morning or at the end of the day or even in the middle of the day. Netflix has, I've been using Headspace for a long time. It's an app that you can use for meditation, really, anywhere. You can just use it on your phone or whatever. But Netflix actually has a program now. I think it's like 8 or 9 episodes around meditation, and it goes through the pieces around meditation and what meditating does to your brain, in terms of clearing it out. So I recommend checking that out. A lot of people have Netflix. If you haven't checked that out, I would check that out there. I use Calm every day. I do my daily Calm first thing in the morning. You can set a reminder. It's about 10 minutes of just, some quiet time. They take the first 5 minutes or so that you go through just like some breathing exercises and just focusing on breathing and trying to stay calm. And then there's, a little bit of a story, a piece to reflect on, something like that. There are also bedtime stories and no shortage of great stuff on the Calm app. I think it's one of the most popular apps that, that has been available in the last couple of years. I recommend that as well. Just, taking care of yourself and spending time kind of clearing out your mind. And then my last pitch here is, taking care, I know we all feel like there's just never time to exercise. Who has time to exercise? And also like what's open or, to even go, and do any exercise. So I just wanted to make a pitch here for Yoga with Adrienne. She is super popular, just this huge, internet presence on YouTube. We were talking at the beginning of the session too, before we got started, about just everything that's available for free on YouTube. There are so many things. So if you've never checked out Yoga with Adrienne, if you don't do yoga, if you're interested, just sort of curious about what yoga is, you could do this in the privacy of your own home. No one will see, no one will know, it doesn't really matter. She's got all sorts of playlists. And my favorite one is you go to Practices by Length, and she's got this whole series, more than 40 videos called Yoga for Busy People. They're very short sessions, 10 to 20-minute sessions. There are also some under 10-minute practices as well if you're interested. So just my little pitch to take care of yourself. It definitely does increase productivity. I always feel a little bit calmer, a little bit more focused, a little bit more productive after I do, any of these, sort of self-care pieces. So I just wanted to pass those along as well. And that's it. That's my pitch here. I want to thank Women Lawyers Association of Michigan for having me. And if there are any questions, I can stop my share. Thanks everyone for joining. Let me see if I can get to the chat.
It looks like there were no questions, but you did get some very positive feedback.
Okay,
And so we appreciate that feedback.
Thanks.
I guess, does anyone have any new comments or questions for Marla before we sign off?
Or how about tips yourself? If anybody has any good, productivity tips or efficiency tips, task managers, anything that you're using, please feel free to share in the chat. Sorry, Nicole, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, that's okay. I did notice when you were showing your email that you were receiving, it looks like court news from the Michigan Supreme Court. And I wondered if you could talk a little bit about that. Like how did you get subscribed? And it looks like you're muted.
That's on the Supreme Court's website. So there is a way to do that. Gosh, I signed up so long ago. I know that if you go to the One Court of Justice website, the media or something like that, they've got a couple of different releases. So I get like Supreme Court opinions, I get the administrative orders, and I also get court news every day. So let me see if I could just find that real quick and share that link that I can.
Yeah, because the state bar, they will send out an email with opinions in it, but I was like, what's this court news? That looks new to me.
Yep, I get it every day. So it's a roundup of events that are happening in courts around Michigan or like legal related news. So like stuff, they might pick up something from like the Detroit Legal News or Macomb Legal News or somewhere. I'd see they just pull articles. So I'll try to find it really quick.
Okay, or not, we can look for it too. If people are also interested in looking at that. Okay, so are there any other questions or comments?
Nicole, if it's okay, I'm going to share my screen because I just found it.
Okay.
So I'm on the Michigan's, I just Googled One Court of Justice and I went to news and events. And here in the newsroom, access daily court news. I know I signed up for it, but I'm just going here. I'm not going to sign up again, but this is how I did it. So you can either subscribe to the court news daily email or the opinions. So I get all of these over to the left-hand side. So again, this is under news and events on the court's website, the One Court of Justice website.
An excellent bonus tip for everybody.
All right, great.
Thank you, Marla. Well, okay, last call for questions or comments. Looks like Jen France posted a little bit. I don't know if you saw that, Marla.
Yep.
And you also got a thanks from Angela Walker. So that was very nice.
Thanks everyone for joining.
Okay, well, it looks like that's all we have. So I guess I will say thank you to everyone for participating today on behalf of the Women Lawyers Association of Michigan's Technology and Communications Committee, which is the official host of this presentation today. If you are a member of the Women Lawyers Association, keep your eye out for the e-focus that comes out each quarter, because we've been fortunate for the last few e-focuses to get tech tips from Marla. And we are hoping to continue that in the future. If you are not a member of the Women Lawyers Association, we would love to have you as a member. So please head over to our website, which is womenlawyers.org, and sign up today. And hopefully we will see you soon either at additional educational programming like this or at some of our social events, which we regularly have throughout the year. So again, thank you very much to Marla. This was a wonderful presentation. I think all the comments in the chat confirm my opinion that it was a wonderful presentation. And with that, I will say thank you to everyone for participating. Have a great day, and hopefully we will see you soon. Take care, everybody.